Welcome to Mock Draft Monday. This mock draft is with trades. Please play along and post your picks in the comments section. After saying for months Justin Fields will be the Bears quarterback, he finally gets traded to Pittsburgh and the suspense is over. Caleb Williams will go number 1 to Chicago. Washington at 2 will entertain possible trades, but I firmly believe after missing out on Caleb Williams, they will take Drake May, quarterback out of North Carolina, with pick number 2. Here is where Minnesota could trade up. After acquiring an extra pick in round 1, Minnesota will try to trade up for a quarterback in this draft, and New England could pull the trigger on a trade here, but I believe that they will go with J.J. McCarthy, quarterback in Michigan, with the 3rd pick in the draft instead. If you use the Jimmy Johnson draft chart, Minnesota's picks at 11 and 23 equals 2,010 points. The 4th pick in the draft, held by Arizona, who already has their quarterback, is valued at 1,800. Arizona could easily trade down here, but instead, I believe that they will take Marvin Harrison Jr., wide receiver out of Ohio State, instead. In a recent scientific study, the top 69 swimsuit models in the world were questioned, and 68 of them said subscribers to Dan Talks Football are over 500% more sexually attractive than non-subscribers. Score with the swimsuit model and hit that subscribe button. Now back to the picks. We have a trade here, and while I won't go into detail about the trade compensation, I could see the Chargers trading their 1st and 3rd round picks in this year's draft to Minnesota for both of their 1st round picks, and I think that would be fair compensation. With the 5th pick in the draft, the Minnesota Vikings select Jaden Daniels, quarterback out of LSU. The Giants at 6, I firmly believe, will select who they have as the best available receiver in the draft, and I think the Giants will dip back into that LSU receiver pool, and with the 6th pick in the draft, the Giants will select Malik Neighbors, wide receiver out of LSU. The Titans at 7, I firmly believe, would love to trade down, but I don't see a scenario where a trade can work. At 7, the Titans could go in a couple different directions, but I believe here they just take best player available and they select my favorite player in the draft. At number 7, the Titans select Roma Duze, wide receiver out of Washington. For me, this pick is a no-brainer. Atlanta needs help with their pass rush, and not one defensive player has been chosen yet. In this situation, Atlanta gets both the best player available while addressing their biggest need. At pick number 8, the Atlanta Falcons select Dallas Turner, outside linebacker out of Alabama. Chicago is back at pick number 9, and they could go in a couple different directions, but I believe after passing up trading the number 1 pick in the draft, you have to invest in protecting Caleb Williams. So with the 9th pick in the draft, Chicago will select tackle Joe Alt out of Notre Dame. The Jets at 10, I firmly believe, will take the best available tackle prospect still on the board. I know they traded for Morgan Moses and signed Tyron Smith in free agency, but both are 33, and priority 1 has to be to upgrade your offensive line. I got the Jets with the 10th pick taking Olu Fasanu, tackle out of Penn State. The Chargers, after dropping down to 11, could do a variety of different things, including another trade down. But when I look at the Chargers, my guess is that they want to upgrade the offensive line, so they will take who they have as their top-rated player. I got with the 11th pick in the draft, the Chargers selecting Talise Fuega, tackle out of Oregon State. We have a trade here. Old friends make a deal as Sean Payton, who started his coaching career in Dallas, makes a deal. I could see Dallas trading their 1st, 2nd, and 3rd pick in the draft for Denver's 1st and 4th, and Dallas said they were going all in this year, and I believe them. So with the 12th pick in the draft, I have the Cowboys selecting J.C. Latham, tackle out of Alabama. The Raiders at 13, I can see trying to trade up for a quarterback, but I don't think a trade partner is going to be available. At 13, I got the Raiders going offensive line, but they need somebody who's ready to play day 1. Other players in this draft will have more upside, but the local kid will be a day 1 starter. The Raiders at 13 will take Troy Fatatunu, tackle out of Washington. The last 5 picks in this mock draft have been offensive linemen, and while the Saints could would make it 6. I think that they need to improve their pass rush. At 14, I have the Saints taking Latu, defensive end out of UCLA. As I am making this video, it's only rumors that L'Jarius Sneed is being traded to the Colts. Colts general manager Chris Ballard spent a lot of time in Kansas City, and while it's not official, I firmly believe that this trade will happen. If it doesn't, I have the Colts going corner here, but after giving up a second or third round pick for Sneed, the Colts will address the offensive line instead. With the 15th pick in the draft, I have the Colts selecting Tyler Guyton, tackle out of Oklahoma. We have another trade as Seattle, without a second round pick, trades with Green Bay, who has 2 second round picks. Green Bay will need to make a move up in the draft or sign a tackle in free agency to replace Bacchiardi, and as of now, Green Bay hasn't signed a tackle in free agency, so a trade up makes sense. With the 18th pick in the draft, the Packers select Amarius Mims, tackle out of Georgia. I see Jacksonville at 17 going defense, and in my opinion, secondary is the biggest concern. Jacksonville would also get the best draft value here, so with the 17th pick in the draft, I have Jacksonville selecting Terrion Arnold, cornerback out of Alabama. Next up is Cincinnati, and I firmly believe they want to take a tackle here, but in this mock draft, all the tackles are gone, at least the ones that have a first round grade, but Cincinnati does get a player most people have as a top 10 player in the draft, and the Bengals could use help at tight end, so it works out. With the 18th pick in the draft, the Cincinnati Bengals select Brock Bowers, tight end out of Georgia. The Rams at 19 could go in a couple different directions, but I have them taking the best available defensive player. With the 19th pick in the draft, the Rams will select Quinion Mitchell, cornerback out of Toledo. With the 20th pick in the draft, we have another trade. In my opinion, Arizona and Pittsburgh will flip-flop first and third round picks. Arizona needs a pass rusher, and this mock draft, a good one is still available. With the 20th pick in the draft, Arizona selects Jared Verse, defensive end out of Florida State. I firmly believe Miami would love to trade down, but in this mock draft, I don't see it happening. The Dolphins hired Anthony Weaver, the Ravens defensive line coach, as their new defensive coordinator, so defensive line makes sense. With the 21st pick in the draft, the Dolphins select Jerzon Newton, defensive lineman out of Illinois. Philly at 22 is up next, and I could see them going in a couple different directions, but I really think they need help at corner, so I have the Eagles with the 22nd pick in the draft taking Nate Wiggins, corner out of Clemson. I can see the Chargers trading down again, but at 23, I got them staying put. They got an offensive lineman at 11. Here they take a defensive lineman. With the 23rd pick in the draft, the Chargers select Byron Murphy, defensive lineman out of Texas. Denver, after not being able to trade up for a quarterback, trades down, but still gets a quarterback. With the 24th pick in the draft, the Denver Broncos select Michael Penix Jr., quarterback out of Washington. Seattle is on the clock now after trading down to 25, and while they signed 2 linebackers in free agency, both are on one-year deals, and head coach Mike McDonald, while in Baltimore, had the best duo of inside linebackers available, so that's where I see Seattle going. With the 25th pick in the draft, Seattle selects Peyton Wilson, linebacker out of NC State. Tampa Bay is up next, and they could easily go offensive line here, and it makes sense if they do, but I got a feeling player value will win out here, and this guy might be too good to pass up. With the 26th pick in the draft, the Bucs select Chop Robinson, outside linebacker out of Penn State. The Steelers, after trading down to 27, take the guy I'm positive they would take at 20. So with the 27th pick in the draft, the Steelers select Jackson Powers Johnson, offensive lineman out of Oregon. We have another trade as Carolina jumps into the first round. Now please note this trade only works if Buffalo does not choose this player, and I've seen several mocks where this receiver goes to the Bills. With the 28th pick in the draft, Carolina selects Brian Thomas Jr., wide receiver out of LSU. Detroit at 29 could go in a couple different directions, but I like offensive line here. With the 29th pick in the draft, Detroit selects Graham Bartram, offensive lineman out of Duke. Baltimore could do several things in this draft, but they love Bama players, and one is a perfect fit. With the 30th pick in the draft, the Ravens select Kool-Aid McKinstry, cornerback out of Alabama. I could easily see San Francisco trade down, but in this mock I didn't see any trades that made sense, but I do see a good fit and excellent value here. With the 31st pick in the draft, the 49ers will select Cooper DeJean, defensive back out of Iowa. We finally have the back-to-back Super Bowl winning Kansas City Chiefs. Now I firmly believe the Chiefs will have extra draft capital with the Snead trade, but as I am making this video, that trade hasn't happened. When it does, Kansas City could be a candidate to trade up, but here at 32, I keep mocking the same player to the Chiefs because to me it makes sense. With the 32nd pick in the draft, the Chiefs will select Darius Robinson, defensive lineman out of Missouri. Since you guys are so awesome, I'm going to give you some bonus picks. Buffalo at 33 selects Zach Frazier, offensive lineman out of West Virginia. I believe he'll be the day one starter as the center for the Buffalo Bills. Houston at 42, I got selecting Braden Fisk, defensive tackle out of Florida State. I think Fisk should be a first round player, and it was really hard leaving him out of my mock. I could also see a situation where Houston trades up in the second round and grabs him, but in my 2-round mock, which I didn't make public, Fisk ends up being a steal for the Texans at 42. 2 picks later, Bo Nix goes to the Raiders, and if this happens, I think Nix is the starting quarterback day one for the Vegas Raiders. Now, Cleveland only has 5 draft picks total, and it wouldn't surprise me one bit if they trade down, but for fun, let's just say they pick at 54. I went with a real dark horse here, Chris Braswell, edge rusher out of Alabama. I think he's better suited to play linebacker, but if he gets drafted by the Browns, he could be a spot pass rusher, bulk up a little bit, and play a full-time defensive end somewhere down the line. Now these are my picks, but I really want to hear from you. What do you think? Who will your team take in the draft? What did you think of my mock draft? And don't forget, every Tuesday and Friday I go live, 8 p.m. Eastern time and 5 p.m. Pacific. On the live stream, all questions are answered and anything goes, so join the show and get your questions answered live. Until next Mock Draft Monday, I'll see you then.